Welcome everyone to Asian Pacific Voices Radio, where you'll find stimulating conversations that explore diverse topics and stories impacting our communities. I'm your host, Sheena Yap Chan. Joining me today is a very special guest. She is a dedicated public servant, an accomplished leader with a strong commitment to fostering equity, inclusion, and positive change within her community. She brings a unique perspective to her role, drawing upon her diverse background and experiences to inform her approach to public service. With an impressive professional background and a deep passion for addressing critical issues such as education, healthcare, and affordable housing, her vision for a thriving community is rooted in transparency, accountability, and empowering the younger generation through mentorship and youth programs. It's my great pleasure to welcome President of House of USA and House of Pacific Relations International Cottages at Balboa Park, Miss Inky Welch. Miss Inky, how are you today?
Oh, good afternoon. Fine, thank you.
First of all, could you start off by sharing your story about when and why you came to the U.S., along with some of your personal experiences or challenges you faced during your early days in the U.S. after moving from Korea?
Sure. I immigrated to the U.S. in 1971 and arriving in Hawaii with my legal guardians. Since I was living with them in Korea and being a minor, I had no choice to come with them to the U.S. Being born and raised in South Korea until the end of my 8th grade, my obvious personal challenges were English, American culture, hippie and other pop cultural movements in the 60s and early 70s. I was basically raised on Eastern philosophies, mainly Confucian ideals and Buddhist teachings, deeply embedded in Korean traditions and culture, which were in stark contrast to pop culture movements of the day. I need to say, I underwent some cultural shocks when I first got here. A couple of personal experiences I remember when I first came to America. One was having my hair length no longer than an inch below my earlobe per my middle school's uniform codes. When I arrived in the U.S., I saw many men and boys who had longer hair than I did, and I could not go outside the house for the first 12 months until my hair reached my shoulders because I was so embarrassed that having shorter hair than boys and men. And sales tax was another new concept to me then. I thought a shop clerk was trying to cheat me by charging more than the price affixed to the items I was purchasing. And I was very, very upset that the shopkeeper was trying to take advantage of my insufficient English. Of course, I learned about sales taxes right away afterwards.
And can you recall a specific moment or memory from your early days in the U.S. that had a profound impact on you and influenced your journey?
Yes, a very kind and loving Messianic Jewish American classmate became a friend to me while I was a sophomore in high school in Hawaii. She wanted to teach me English using the Bible as a textbook and introduced me to the gospel while I was learning King James English from her. Go figure. That's when I learned for the first time in my life how Jesus, the Son of God, showed the way of a true leadership through servanthood and demonstrated his love by sacrificing himself for many. So I learned then that a few, even selfless deed of a one person could make significant difference in the lives of many folks based on genuine love for others who are in need. This teaching about effective and productive life through services motivated by agape love had a profound impact on me personally, professionally, and influenced my journey since then.
I love that. It's so true. Sometimes we can change one person's life and you don't know where that person can go. I mean, they could be the next Oprah, they could be the president. I mean, sky's the limit, right? And so I love that philosophy you mentioned. And
Yes.
I think it's interesting that you learned English by utilizing the Bible. That's so cool.
So you should see me speaking King James English, and people thought that I was in a Shakespeare class, and all I tried to do is communicate.
Oh, thanks for sharing that. And what inspired you to enter the field of public service and pursue a career in leadership? Can you provide an overview of your professional background and experience leading up to your current role?
By nature, I'm a doer and not a talker. For example, instead of complaining about politicians who promise one thing, then do another after they get into the office, sometimes quite the opposite of their campaign promises, I refrain myself just talking about it and complaining about it because that doesn't do anything. So I decided to do something about it and be a leader who actually serves the public as the public servants were originally designed to do. So I also dislike doing things the masses do. Uh, I tend to place myself in an arena where I am the first to uh, tread the path motivated by American pioneer spirit. And as you can see in my bio, you see a lot of the very first, the only a Korean / Asian American do certain things. So I believe my education, coupled with the past 42 plus years of work experience in accounting, banking, corporate finance, mergers and acquisition, real estate, flight school program administration, interfacing with the various federal agencies as well as the various community services prepare me for the current role.
Could you tell us about the House of Pacific Relations International Cottages at Balboa Park? And have there been any specific instances where your Korean background helped bridge cultural gaps, foster understanding within the Balboa Park community?
Yes, the House of Pacific Relations International Cottages, also known as HPR, was a device during the gloomy days leading up to World War II as a means to promote Pacific, meaning peaceful relationship among many fractured ethnic groups in the 1930s. Thus, HPR was established in 1935 as a consortium of houses representing 15 nations originally and currently grown to 31 cultural groups, promoting multicultural goodwill and understanding through educational and cultural programs. In my opinion, understanding basic human needs and learning to communicate to establish commonality coupled with the humility, considering others higher than I, regardless of their titles and jobs, as well as perseverance, hard work, uh, learning as a life's essential tool, and selfless service to others help bridge me to not only community within the Balboa Park, but all people beyond Balboa Park as well.
Thanks for sharing that. And I think it's important, if we concentrate on one area that will actually overflow, right? And we can do what we did in one area and transfer it to other areas who are going through similar things. What advice do you have for individuals who are going through a similar experience of relocating to a new country and adapting to a different culture?
Learn, 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 and educate, and apply and practice what you learned. Be positive and bear fruit or be productive in your personal and professional walks. Understanding common threads by connecting and learning other cultures. Be kind and treat others the way you want it to be treated. Always challenge yourself and never cease to learn because in one of the Korean proverbs says, even an 80-year-old can learn from a 3-year-old child.
I love that. They always say you are always learning something new every day until you're not here anymore. And we've seen articles where people as old as 80, 85 are graduating from college because they didn't get to go when they were younger. And yeah, we can learn from children. Sometimes the best lessons that we can learn from are our children, right? They're so innocent. It's just so simple, yet we overcomplicate everything as we get older. So I love that great reminder that you mentioned.
There's a, I think, famous author published a book called "All You Need to Know as a success to operate successful adult life is you learned in kindergarten."
I love that. That's a great lesson. And are there any aspects of Korean culture that you particularly enjoy sharing or educating others about the House of Pacific Relations and House of USA?
Oh, of course, mostly it's a Korean food, uh, magnificent Korean history, traditional folk dances and their meanings, And Hangul, a million thanks to the King Sejong the Great for his invention of the Korean phonetic written language, as well as sharing others about adaptability, sustainability, resilience, and creativity of Korean people in general through their strong work ethics.
I love that. And I love that you started with food because we all love to eat, right? And Korean food is one of the best cuisines in the world. What are some of your favorite Korean dishes that you love to share?
I like all the side dishes. It's called a banchan. It's a collection of all different kinds of side dishes, and mostly vegetables. It could be seafood, it could be meat, but mainly it's mostly vegetables and fermented, which is a natural probiotic. And so and it's really good for your skin too. The more vitamin C and more vegetables and food you consume, it's better for your skin. So it's just a natural, healthy food. So I always recommend to have Korean food. And also the word shikgu in Chinese character is written eating or the food and the mouth. What that means is as a family, we connect with each other by gathering and sharing food together. So the food is very important in connecting with others, and especially guests. If you want to get to know them better, you always invite them to your dinner table, right?
Yeah, I think in any Asian culture, food is the language of love, right?
And yes, that's right.
We make a feast. We want to make sure our family members or friends are fed well, and if there's leftovers, we tell them to bring it home with them. And it's always great to learn different cuisines from everybody. Just learning about how they cook, what are some of the things that they have that's different, being able to try out different things. I remember when I first saw like the side dishes, I was just like, "Oh my god, there's free food at this restaurant. This is awesome!" Not realizing there were side dishes. So,
Right, that's
um,
true.
yeah. So I love that you started out with food because I mean, food is really important, especially in Asian culture, right? So, um,
Exactly.
and we can always connect with that.
Right, and just want to let you know that the in Korean greeting, it's already embedded in our culture. They don't say "How are you?" They could greet say "Have you eaten?" That means that's how they greet each other.
I like that. I'm gonna have that as a new greeting. Can you speak about any initiatives or programs you've implemented at the House of Pacific Relations and House of USA that celebrate or promote cultural exchange between Asia Pacific and the US? What can people expect when they visit the houses?
Well, since I took the office of HPR presidency this year and the House of USA 7 years ago, uh, uh, I instituted celebrating, first of all, for House of USA inaugural African American Heritage. Now, again, that is for the everybody to come and learn, because more we understand each other, the better. And of course, this year we had the inaugural celebration of Asian Pacific American Heritage in a month of May. And also, I'm planning to have the first Hispanic Latino heritage events at HPR Cottage International Lawn Area in the Balboa Park. Now, administratively, I brought the House of USA from the 20th to 21st century in many aspects, including technology and initiating and restating new and existing HPR committees, namely strategic and short-range planning, audit, and publicity committees, and also continuously recruiting ready, willing, and able members who are excited about the future of the House of the USA as well as the HPR as a whole. So just the House means HPR House membership, whereas a cottage means physical building. So when people visit the cottages, they're greeted with some ethnic treats and or beverages, view historical and or cultural displays, and even engage with a docent or host who can answer questions or explain any items that you may have a question about the respective country's history, traditions, cultures, costumes, and languages.
How did you get elected to become the first female president for the houses?
Okay. Well, I think usually when I engage with the public, engage with the House members, anybody, I normally forget about the adjective. So I don't go by, oh, I'm a Korean American. I go by, I always try to find the commonality. And so just being there where in the areas where the organization or the people or the cottage need the most. I think people hopefully can see that, and I'm willing to put up the hard work to get the goals accomplished. So last year, very fortunately, and grace of all the 31 delegates, I was unanimously voted as the president of HPR this year.
Awesome. And congrats to that. I know you mentioned like you don't see yourself based on your race, but just what you do. But it is really still important because you've broken that glass ceiling. You've opened it for the doors for other Asian women who want to be in your
Mhm.
footsteps, right? Or take the same position or be president in another industry or another organization. So I just want to say congrats to that. And, like you're the first one in 100 years. That's amazing. So congrats to that. And how do you navigate the complexities of cultural identity, balancing your Korean roots and your American experiences?
Well, let's see. In order to explain that, I have to share my personal mantra or slogan, and it is there is only one race in my dictionary, and it's the human race, sharing the same blood red, the color signifying life, action, strength, energy, and passion. When a person connects with someone outside of their influence, a sphere of influence or cultural group based on common human needs and wants, I believe the cultural walls come down, and one's willingness to learn, understand, and celebrate the difference of others versus debating the differences. I believe one's life can only be enriched and can make positive impact in our home, community, and society. So by focusing on being an American first, like as I mentioned earlier, that I gain trust of others because always find that commonality, common ground, and then using my knowledge and experiences from my root to connect and to enrich the lives of others. I really like a Korean subject, object, noun, 우리, meaning we, our, ours, versus American individualism of I, mine. So first person plural noun implies togetherness and is very powerful in many aspects of our lives because there's a strength in numbers.
Thanks for sharing that. I love that you mentioned, yes, we are all human. We all bleed the same color. And sometimes, people don't see that, right? I mean, racism still happens. You're judged by the color of your skin. And unfortunately, we're still working towards learning to live peacefully in harmony. And so I think the more we just talk about these things, the more people can be aware, like, yeah, we are all just the same, right? We may look different, but we're all human. So thanks for sharing that. And are there any particular Korean traditions or customs that hold a special place in your heart and that you actively incorporate into your work and life?
Well, let's see. Having lived in the U.S. nearly 4 times or longer than having lived in Korea, I don't have any particular traditions or customs that I would try to teach others or share with others. But what I do is I choose the better or the best of the two or more cultures to establish sincere friendship, a joyous achievement, a dignified services, integral profession, and the love of my neighbor as defined as those who are in need through communication and bond of unity.
Thanks for sharing that. And I know collaboration and partnership building are essential in public service. How have you successfully worked with diverse stakeholders to achieve common goals in the past?
Well, let's see. Historically, many houses, obviously it's by design, tend to focus only on their own culture and events, which could easily sometimes can segregate you as a member house from the rest of a group. So I've been reaching out not only to all 30 other HPR house members, but also community organizations, the expert members in their respective areas or fields in ethnic performing arts, to collaborate with the House of USA. Like for instance, of course, ethnic food fair and the international Christmas festivals by design. All the 31 houses come together, but even on House of USA event, typically the Memorial Day, Independence Day, Constitution Day, Colonial Day, the Veterans Day. I'll try to make it so that as many other cottages or countries can collaborate. For instance, as July 4th of July is coming up, as we celebrate Independence Day, it's not just the activity for House of USA, but it is for basically the Germans, Poland, House of Poland, France, Scotland, Ireland, Israel, Mexico, and the list goes on, because in the beginning, during the American Revolutionary War, all these ethnic groups came, and some of them ultimately paid with their price so that this nation can have its birthday, its independence. I try to bring everybody together, and this is not just the USA, but this is our events. And even in Korea, the March 1st is Independence Day, and so I try to explain how important it is for us to have that freedom. And as I said, the freedom doesn't come free, because many the independent fighters have lost and shed their blood so that they could have independence, or even UN, U.S. soldiers and allies during the Korean War helped to bring about the independence, freedom of democracy to the South Korea. And so, again, I try to put all this together, and just for a moment, forget about nationality. But since you're in need, you were violated, let's help work together so that you can be free, and without support and help. So that's how I approach it in many different issues, even some of the controversial issues. I try to make it so that it's amicable, and let's just agree to disagree. So that's how I like to end in a lot of issues.
Thanks for sharing that. And Inky, do you have a life's philosophy that you live by that you can share with our listeners?
I think it was pretty much covered earlier. As I said, I think the golden rule is the best. Do unto others the way you want to be treated. And so I try to be respectful, try to be understanding. Now, not everything that you hear, you may agree because of your upbringing and whatnot, but you just share something that's positive, and something that could bring us together. So that's what I try to focus. And we can easily be bitter and be, how you say it, complaining about a lot of things, issues with the society. But if you just focus one person at a time, one thing at a time, I think we can go a lot further, because the Korean will say, 10,000 ri, that starts with the first step. So if you do well in small things, I think the greater task will be entrusted to you eventually.
First off, I just want to thank you for coming on today to share your story, to share about the House of USA and the work you've done. Again, thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Well, thank you so much for inviting, and it's obviously this is a privilege, and my deep gratitude to you for allowing me to come on your show. Thank you.
Sounds good. And so I want to thank our guest, Inky Welch, for joining me on today's show. We would love to also hear from you, our valued listeners, about any suggestions for future guests or topics. Also, be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast platform, as well as follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Asian Pacific Voices Radio is produced by Asian Culture and Media Alliance, a nonprofit that empowers our Asian and Pacific Islander communities with a voice through media arts. If you would like to support our program, please visit AsianPacificVoicesRadio.com. I'm Sheena Yap Chan, and I thank you for listening. Please join us next week for another exciting and thought-provoking Asian Pacific Voices Radio show. Until then, take care, everyone.